Hello and welcome again. I'm back with another video that is unscripted and will have minimal editing because I really wanted to get this video out above my Naros video and also my Ureli video. I will definitely have a properly edited video, at least for a Naros. I don't know about Ureli, but at least for a Naros. But I really wanted to get this video out because I think that this is a really cool thing that is happening with Nezha's new Augment. And I don't think it's going to be long until all the people start catching on to it and start releasing all the videos. So I wanted to kind of jump the gun on it. I already know a few YouTubers have already beat me already and had released videos on Nezha's Augment. So hopefully I can get ahead of the pack. This is my first time experiencing like an update, so I have that to contend with. But it is Nezha's new Augment is just ridiculously powerful. It's insane. Like, it is just ridiculously powerful. But first, I should explain Nezha's kit. So Nezha's passive is a pretty boring one. He slides faster and he goes further. This is actually kind of annoying because it basically means that Nezha can I need to fix that. It basically means that Nezha will slide like pretty far, and like you can overslide your like where you want to go. Like, so for example, if I do that, see, I just did it, right? So if I do that, that's where I want to go, right? So if I, it's kind of, I don't know how you do it. It's like you kind of, yeah. Well, I guess you guys already saw that, like, me slide past it, but like it can be kind of annoying. Fortunately, though, Nezha does have an augment that actually fits in the Exilus slot, that turns off. It's called Controlled Slide. It turns off his passive and gives you a 15% increase to ability strength, which is pretty nice. Nezha's first ability is Firewalker. He will leave a trace of fire behind him that will give him an increased movement speed. Any ally that walks in the flames or stands in the flame will be given status cleansing, and while they stand in it, that means they will be immune to status effects. Obviously, enemies that get in it will be knocked back and have the take fire damage over time, applying the fire heat status effect. Nezha's second ability is called Blazing Chakram. Nezha will fire the Chakram on his back, which will bounce between enemies. Enemies hit by the Chakram will become vulnerable to future instances of damage, and if they die while this damage buff is activated, they will have an increased chance to drop health orbs and energy orbs. The augment for Nezha's second will increase the damage of the ability each time it hits an enemy, and increase the likelihood of a health orb drop each time it hits the enemy. Nezha's third ability, you can tell I'm quite familiar with Nezha. He was one of my favorite frames at one point. Nezha's third ability is Warding Halo. While it works very similar to Iron Skin. When you activate it, you have a period of invulnerability. When enemies shoot you, it will then store all that damage, multiply it, and add it to Warding Halo's health bar. You can see Warding Halo's health bar at the bottom right above the energy orb. It isn't a full damage reduction, it is only 90% damage reduction, and the duration will last as long as the health bar lasts. So when you take damage, the Warding Halo health bar will go down. It will give you complete status immunity, however, which also means knockback immunity. For example, making it very good. The augment for this ability will allow you to recast the ability to apply it on allies that you are pointing at. Nezha's fourth ability is Divine Spears. Nezha will launch all enemies within range into these spears. When the ability runs out, or when you recast it, you will then slam the enemies back into the ground. If an enemy, while on one of these spears, gets hit by Nezha's second, it will break up into multiple instances of the Chakram, and then each instance will go around and look for new enemies to hit. The augment for this ability, which is Nezha's new ability, is when any of these enemies that are currently affected by the spear get infected by a status effect, all other enemies that are affected by the spear get infected by the status effect. 79 heat. It also will do increased damage to enemies when they drop, when the spear is deactivated, slamming them back into the ground based on the damage of all the status effects they did. Pairing this with Raw, which increases the DPS, pairing this with Raw, which is our Helminth, which increases the damage of our abilities, makes for one very nasty combo. Pairing this with our Epitaph modded for viral priming and Raw makes this even more powerful. Simply cast Raw, then Divine Spears, then we do our second to apply that heat procs, and bam, and bam. And yeah, one more time for good measure. So let's have a look at the build, shall we? I swear I have controlled drifts, controlled sling on, controlled slide, yeah, okay. So the build, corrosive protection will lower enemies' armor by a tiny bit, making them weaker to our attacks. Armor intensify and blind rage are our power strength for the build. Equilibrium will be our energy return. Blazing Chakram does increase the amount of health and energy orbs drop, so Equilibrium paired with Blazing Chakram will give you all the energy you need. Prime Flow, as this is a casty setup, so you need Prime Flow for that extra energy reserve. Overextended because you want a bunch of range, because Divine Spears is an absolute CC effect that completely immobilizes enemies and goes through walls. And as you can see with Overextended, I have a 36 meter range on this, which is just gonna completely take out many enemies, and all the enemies affected with Divine Spears, because of the augment, will all be affected by all the status effects that I apply on any one of them. So I don't even need to use Nezha Second on all of them. I just need to use Nezha Second on like a group of the enemies, and then all the enemies within that 36 meters that got affected by Divine Spears are gonna die. And because Divine Spears will also spread the viral status effect from our Epitaph onto all the other enemies, which is really good. Archon Vital will double the amount of heat procs that our second ability will do. Blazing Divine, I can't even say that word. This is the augment for the fourth ability, and of course we have the augment for the passive as well to get rid of that annoying slide and to give us that increased ability strength. And then Reaping Chakram is the augment for Nezha's second, which will give us that increased damage, times 2 damage each time it hits an enemy, and the increased chance of a health orb giving us more energy. Multi-augmented for even more power strength on kill, and Arcane Blessing for some health so we can have kind of a health tanking setup. This build is going to have so much crowd control, and Nezha has a very low amount of energy that it means you can low amount of shields, meaning you can shield get really easily with him. So this isn't really that necessary, but I thought it would give him, and wouldn't be ideal for endurance runs. For an endurance run, you would probably have to change this build out a bit to switch, maybe get rid of Archon Vital for like Cat Shields or something like that. But for base Steel Path and for quite a few hours, like quite a while into Steel Path, this will absolutely just demolish enemies. And Arcane Blessing plus your third ability will be all the survivability you need because of all the crowd control that you'll have. The Epitaph build is our viral build, not the Heat Inherent build. I did use the Heat Inherent build when I tested this build, but the viral build actually proved to be better for the setup. We got Amalgam Barrel Diffusion for some multi-shot and dodge speed, which gives us some utility with our weapon. These two mods are also for utility to give us shield to energy conversion. Then we got Status Chance. Then we got our Viral and Status Chance. Then we got Radiation, which is just a really good status effect and another extra level of crowd control. Plus Fire Rate. And then we have more multi-shot and Fire Rate. And Secondary Encumbered for even more status effects. And Trick Mag just for a larger magazine. Protos is just used for this evolution and this evolution for extra use speed, movement utility, and Kuvazar is just modded with Amalgam Serration for sprint speed. The companion we're using will be the Nautilus, because we will be making use of its unique ability Cordon, which will group enemies together within 30 meters. This will be very good for our setup, as it will allow us to group enemies together and then activate Divine Spears, and then we can just simply use our second ability and they'll just die immediately. All the other mods are pretty simple. Menethil Bond here is to reduce the cooldown on Cordon, Guardian for shield gating, Prime Regen to have our Cordons summon back quicker. These two are just for survivability for Cordon. Synth Deconstruct is for some more energy health orb drops. Vacuum as a must-have, and Assault Mode as well, because Cordon can't attack without it. I haven't formed Nautilus that much, so there's an empty slot here. I definitely know what mod I would want to put there, definitely. Shield Charger, maybe. I don't know, but that's effect slot, I guess. You can put whatever you want. And then we're using the Hellstrom as our weapon for our Sentinel, as Hellstrom is very good for priming, as it will fire out multiple rockets and with a high status chance and shoot out a lot of options for priming. So we have our radiation, we have viral, and we have heat for priming. Then we have multi-shot, more multi-shot, fire rate, and more status chance. Okay, let's take this build into a mission and see how powerful it really is. Okay, so when we start, I'm gonna pop Xeneric. The focus score doesn't matter. I just like Xeneric. Xeneric is like my default focus score when I don't really know what focus score to use. But Xeneric for energy economy, Matarai for additional power strength, Yunara for some knockback resistance and crab armor stripping, and then Vazarin for some extra survivability. But as you can see, this build just absolutely, oopsies. You've got to make sure you activate your third for that knockback resistance. But this build just absolutely demolishes enemies. It's insane. Make sure you keep Raw active whenever it pops. You don't have the most duration on this build, so it will go down often. But Raw, if the reason why we're using Raw, if that wasn't clear, is Raw will buff ability damage, meaning it will buff the amount of damage Reaping Chakram does, and therefore buff the amount of damage the heat status effects do. And it is multiplicative with power strength. It is just insane, this build. It's just it's nuts. I loved Nezha a long time ago. But recently I've kind of, well, not recently, within the last like few months or so, I stopped using him as much because he used to be like the only frame I played, and I stopped using him because I guess I just got bored of him after repetitive use. But this augment definitely changes the game when it comes to Nezha. Like he was always good for DPS because of his second ability and the damage and vulnerability it gives, but now he's just a nuke and he is just wiping out enemies. It is amazing. It is, and all the energy orbs and health orb drops you could ever want. It is truly amazing. You can tell that I'm quickly having my fourth ability, like killing all the enemies affected by my fourth ability, by seeing how quickly the duration runs out. Because if all the enemies affected by the fourth ability die, then the duration goes down, and it's just mad to see. If the duration is still up and you recast the ability, then it will just deactivate it, which will then ultimately lead to you having to cast the ability again to reactivate it. But if all the enemies die, then you'll just be able to cast it once and set up the damage rotation again. It's insane. Like, it is just an insane setup. And you don't need to use Reaping Chakram. If you had like a weapon, like a beam weapon you wanted to use, and you could even mod for even more range. Like you could put Stretch and like Augur Reach on, and you could have like a beam weapon like the Kuva Nucor or something like that, and then just mod it for like corrosive and heat and 2 emerald shards. That would be devastating. I was gonna do that, but I didn't have enough ember shards to make emerald shards, so I did this instead, and I'm more than happy with the result because this is in itself like just insanely powerful. Like, look at that, right? Enemies just die. They come to you thanks to Corden, and then they just die. Like, it's just insane how powerful, how good of a setup this is. Like, Nezha's new Augment is ridiculous. I think it even already got it nerfed, and the update hasn't even been out for a day. Like, even after being nerfed, it's still just so powerful. Like, Nezha's new Augment is just insane. An Acolyte that you don't want to deal with, simple. Just get out the Zar. Acolyte's dead now. Doesn't have to be the Zar. Could be any weapon you want that is good at taking out Acolytes. Could be shotgun. Could be an AoE weapon. But anyone you want. Acolytes won't be affected by a 4th, so obviously you can't kill them with this nuke setup that we have going. Do that, then do this. Apply them in viral, and look, they're all dead. Give us roll. Do that. Do this. Apply them in viral. And look, they're all dead. It's actually insane. Like, I can't express enough how this is, how insane this is. Like, I think this is enough to take Nezha from A tier to S tier. Like, I already ranked him pretty high. I ranked him as A tier in my tier list video, if you watched that. But this Augment definitely is enough to take him above that extra step into S tier, because it's just so powerful. Like, it's actually ridiculous. Anyway, that will be all for this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. And I hope, like I said, I'll have the Ureli and the Inaris built out. I haven't even, Ureli is like built in my foundry and ready to be collected, but I haven't collected her yet, so I need to like level her and do all that stuff. So Ureli will still be a bit away, and Inaris will be even further away because I need to like, I will 100% make a proper video for Inaris, properly edited, and I might do that for Ureli as well. But they will be on the way, but I hope you enjoyed these 2 videos, this one and Dante's video that I just quickly shot out and I gave you, and I hope you enjoyed the builds, because I definitely enjoyed both builds very much. Anyway, if you like this video, do check out some of my other context. Definitely check out my Dante video that I've uploaded. It would have been uploaded in like maybe like an hour or so before this one, so definitely do check out, and until next time, bye bye.